that you could make paint. Most people now would just go to the art store and buy a tube. And somebody had to make that. That had to be made. And this is the old style tradition, taking it all the way from stone and working it all the way through and making paint. So it's the art of transformation, transforming mineral to paint. The paint just means mineral color, plant color, integrated into a medium, something to get it to flow. That's all paint needs. So there's different kinds of paints. So if you feel comfortable and you want to come stand around here, you could do that too if you're a standing kind of person. Or if you're a very polite, civilized, alphabetized person. Do that too. There's some more chairs. Help yourself, come over here, don't let the ladies have to do all the work.
Didn't mean to crowd you, sorry.
We're
not in the show.
So I don't have a real loud voice. I'm not going to put on a microphone. So if you want to come close, they don't bite, or you don't have to be shy. Hopefully, you'll want to get involved. I'm going to need some help in this process too. So
We've got a few more people coming from Great Falls, so we're going to wait about 5 minutes and we'll get started.
any art majors here? And the rest of you are just as part of electives, you're taking art? Is that?
Part of
You
my
have to?
requirement.
What's that?
For marketing, so I'm doing digital marketing and sales, so I have to take some type of art class and then a digital digital media class too.
You know, art is the one subject that can touch every other subject. Not all subjects can touch each other. Like chemistry and PE, they don't meet all the time. You know, but art is the subject that integrates everything. We can go out in every department and find a connection to it. Take every other department and bring it into the arts and somehow make it relevant, make it living. You know, so art is really important. To me, art is the expression, just having, being able to express yourself in your ideas, get them out instead of just thinking about them or feeling them. You know, is actually get it out of your hands and let it live in the world without you. And then, like this artwork, it lives and will live beyond me. You know, so it's like you let it loose in the world. You can harness it for business, and you can use it in terms of well-being, health, and healing. What other ways does art touch our lives? Don't be shy.
Murals.
What is it?
Murals.
Murals.
Stop by.
So, and murals are social, political, architectural intersections of ideas and art. But they live in the environment. They're not necessarily bought or sold. Like when we go to a museum, then it's frozen in time, right? For the fine art of history, the history of fine art. And galleries are more marketable. But what if you did an art that wasn't made to be bought or sold? Today we think of it as a product or as art as a commodity. Look, that's neither bought nor sold, you know, it's an expression. You could be tall or short or any way and enjoy it. It's an accessibility, again, it's an intersection of ideas, you know. That's really important because then it has social implications. It has political connotations. I'm stalling. Is that 5 minutes she was talking about? I'm running in place here. You know those little hamsters?
Yeah, the wheels.
That's what I'm doing.
I think we can get started.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay. We did already.
We did
No,
already.
okay.
But to officially introduce Stan Padilla, who has a gorgeous show in the KANEKO Gallery. We have the door shut now because we can't simultaneously kind of guard the gallery. But when the demo's over, we'll open it up so people who haven't seen the show can come in. The show is very much tied into the demo. You're going to see a lot of blue in the show. Stan and Ray Gonzalez are showing together, both pottery from Ray and paintings from Stan. And I just want to say a special thank you for Stan for coming out here and doing this demo that I think is going to be one of the highlights of the semester. So thank you so much. And it looks like our art history students have arrived.
Oh,
so
that's
they
the
can
museum.
kinda-
Remember I was talking about art history?
Right.
Come on
so
over.
you can kind of stand around, or there's shade over here.
You can come over here and stand back here and look. Wherever you feel comfortable, wherever you feel you have access to gain information and be a part of this. Please, there's no audience. You're active participants in this. Your ideas, your feelings, your observations are all a part of this. If you don't want to stand in the sun, get out of the sun. Yeah, there's plenty of room up here.
There's room behind too, so.
So it's with a lot of pleasure that I come here, and I went to school here in the 1960s. I left in 1963. The gallery was named after James KANEKO, who was my mentor here. And this used to be the playroom here. This was that was our, because this was all the art department. It was just these two right here. That was all there was. And it was a very different campus. It was a very different time. It had a very different demographics, and we didn't know of the word diversity yet. It was pretty much monoculture at that time. And so we finished and got the hell out of here and moved on. But it was Mr. KANEKO who encouraged me to follow my dreams, to follow my craft, to follow my ethnic background. Everyone else was following in a row in this road, and he said, you already have something. You don't have to look for anything, just celebrate it and do it. And I'll be your back. I'll have your back when the other teachers are saying, you're not quite doing what they want you to do. He says, I'll stand for you. So that was really important for me. And to believe in myself as an artist, believe in myself as a person, you know, that art, my art, then I dedicated it to causes of social justice, for injustices, and to bring awareness for the poor, the hungry, the unjust, the oppressed, the minorities. That was where I wanted my art to go. I'm happy to be here because this art is not in an elite gallery or somewhere. It's where real people like yourselves are seeing it. That's more important to me. I like it in special places, educational situations, where the people that I know and the people that I want to see it are here, not somewhere else. So I stay to this day. I like to talk because I like my ideas to shine through the work. So what we're going to do today, this is the traditional art of paint making. Now, most people don't go to the art store and just buy a tube of paint and I'm done. But how did it get there? You art history students, you know, that it began in really the beginnings of the world. The first arts was to pick up the earth, mix it with water,
Mud.
paint yourself, get a sharp stick, poke it into your skin. So those were the first arts, you know. And then jewelry, another art. Things that we weren't born with, but we wanted to express in ourselves. That's what the first arts were. So this is the art of the blue. If again, at any time, if you want to come up here and see, these are primarily all the blues in the world. Why blue? You know, what makes blue different than any other color? Well, for most of you are younger, but in the 1960s, when the first Apollo rockets went into space, about 65, I think it was, 64, first pictures came back and we were able to see ourselves in space, the planet Earth. It was the first time we started hearing the word ecology started coming back. It was the first time that human beings could see it. And what was around the Earth? It was all blue. Blue is the color of space. What color is the sky?
Like a really light,
Yes and no. Yeah, it is phenomenologically blue, but it's clear. And it changes all the time according to its atmosphere. So in between each of us, if we were to go way out in space and look down here and look between us all, there would be blue. That's the nature of living in space. Did you know you lived in space? Earth is a space. This may seem like it's empty, but swing your hands around. You see it's thick. There's something here. What is that something? That's space. Space is composed of many different things, elements. So, blue stone. Mainly it comes from Afghanistan. The sources are Afghanistan and South American country of Chile. The most blue, what we call ultramarine blue, blue, is lapis lazuli, and that's how it originally came down to us. It's expensive, it's rare, it's precious, and it has always been that way. This summer I was studying in Florence in Italy, studying blue, the color blue. It was expensive in those days. It came on the Silk Road all the way across China, across the Middle East, into Florence. And so when you study that kind of Renaissance painting, especially a high Renaissance painting, only certain things were painted with blue, and everything that was painted with blue is considered precious. All female life and their cloaks were and the Virgin Mary and all of the saints and goddesses had a blue cloak, and that's what it was saved. It's called the cult of blue. So what we're going to do today is make a little bit of it. So what I've done, I've taken a little bit of this lapis, and I start, what we have to do is make it fine, right? So if you want to come up and see close for the camera, put it here, and then we just, like making medicine, like making magic potions, just keep going around.
Are you using glass or
It
porcelain?
takes about 1,000 turns to get something to pulverize. Yeah,
Are you using glass or porcelain to break it down?
yeah, porcelain.
Porcelain?
Porcelain.
He dropped a chunk of lapis.
Careful with the... Go around.
And we always go in a clockwise direction. I don't know if any of you cook or anything, but when you're mixing something by hand, or a electric mixer, it doesn't go counterclockwise, it goes clockwise because it folds it in easily. And that's what we're trying to do. Just get finer and finer. And then from that stage, I take it to the next one. You probably really can't see this until unless you come up here. Then this goes back to the hopper again. Then we've got a little bit of a finer. And then I go another 1,000 times. And did you hear the difference in sound? It's a different sound. So when I'm going, I go around, but I'm also make a round, around.
Is that in a powder form? I didn't
It's-
get to see that part.
Where's it coming from?
will
It's
be.
getting to be a powder form.
Okay.
This is the same if you were to take any kind of herbs or minerals and you were making medicine. The crucible, the mortar and pestle, the longer you work it in there, it becomes medicine. Anything. It helps you. So we keep doing this, so pretend I'm still doing that. These are all, this is lapis, I'll pass this around. This is what I'm using, all that's crushed up. And then we'll start in that process down here. This is that color made synthetically. It's made in 1945 when we started to see this color. Before this time, we didn't have this color. Only a few select people could have this color. And it was usually royalty. It was held in the church, in churches, until this came about. And now we can all have access to the synthesis of this color. About 19, and it's difficult because it changes colors, depends on where it comes from, how it's prepared. And there was one artist in late 1940s, Yves Klein, who regulated blue. It's called International Klein Blue. Because usually when you paint with this, it changes color when it dries. Yeah.
What was the guy's name?
Yves, Y-V-E-S, Klein. And he painted blue, just big fields and canvases of blue. But he also worked with the chemists and to get the color to sustain itself, because when I add the medium is what a paint is, color or pigment mixed in a medium. It has to flow, be able to flow. I'm making watercolor. If I put oils in there, it would be oil paint. If I put egg in there, it would be egg tempera. If I put chalk and wax in it, I'll make a colored pencil. You know, so whatever you mix it with, it allows that color to flow evenly and smoothly. And that's what paint is. You know, everything starts with a pigment. Pigments can be mineral, plant, or synthetic. Yves Klein was a really important artist because he established that. He became an artist chemist to get that color that could stay, because this color doesn't stay very long with this. It changes colors all the time. And so he found it to be able to do that, to get that color. And ultimately, he ended his life early because he wanted to experience the color in space. So what he used to do is go up on top of buildings and jump off into the abyss.
Now, who is this artist?
Yves Klein. So that's ultramarine. Now there are about 9 to 12 blues possible on the earth. That's all there is. This is a plant color. This one comes from, this is extracted. Have you ever heard of blue-green algae? Mainly it grows up in the Klamath Basin region. It grows what they call new water, when the fresh water comes up from the surface. It's one of the purest substances, and this is the blue, out of blue-green algae. This was just not invented, but the extraction method was just been about 3 years ago out of UC Davis. And what they use this for is in water facilities and ponds. You know, natural water ponds turn muddy and mucky, right? But if you live up in the mansion, you don't want a muddy thing. So if you use this, you get a watercolor all the time, so it paints your water. And that's what it's used for now. This one, I just recently got. This is from Morocco, and this is, the veins grow in the Sahara Desert. It's just like there are veins in the mountains and so forth. In the Sahara Desert, there are certain places near oases where they have Moroccan blue. And if you ever been to Marrakesh, you ever been to Morocco in general, there are whole areas that are just, the houses are painted blue, just like in Santorini and different parts of Greece. So this is Moroccan blue.
Excuse me, so is that a sediment? Is that a sediment?
What's that?
Is that a sediment then, that Moroccan?
No, it's actually a mineral. It's a vein that comes out of that. Because a desert isn't all sand. That's only on the top, right? Underneath there's.
Is there a reason why these are water?
They look prettier. No, otherwise it would look like denim or something like that. Yeah. So, and that way, when I go, so I can pick out the ones that have the most glue. You know. And water is the extractor for all this. These are all paints. This is turquoise. So these are all finely made paints already. You know, these can be used. When it all comes down, maybe what I'm making today might make one of these little seashells. And these are watercolor, like you see watercolor in little bricks. Well, in the old days, everything was done in shells. Shells, when you make paint, the chemistry is you have to keep it real alkaline. And that's why this water I'm using to work is distilled water, denatured water. All the minerals have been taken out of it, so it doesn't chemically change the paint. For those of you, thank you. For drinking?
Yes.
Oh. If you look closely as a technician, if in acrylic paints, it always says use distilled water. Don't use regular tap water because it's going to change the viscosity, the thickness of it. It's going to age quicker. Most people just open the tube and start painting, but knowing your paints is important, you know, for long-term art history students. We're studying arts because they have outlasted the decay of time, you know. So we study the ancient things. We study the ancient paints, right, on the pyramids and so forth, and the temples, because they've outlasted everything around us. And ravages of time and sun and water and essential elements. Any other questions? Well, I'm just going to keep going.
991.
And Pat? I said. Yeah, I wanted to see if she had any questions. Teachers usually have a lot of questions.
I have one.
Yeah.
I was just gonna ask, what is your name? What
My
is your-
name?
Yeah.
Stan. The Padilla, P-A-D-I-L-A. I'll give it to you later. Or just go look in the gallery. Dolores, did you have any questions? You've heard me talk before about something. So why don't some of you brave people come up close? I feel weird up here by myself. It's like a cook or something. Yeah, anyway, come up and see what's here. See how it's changed. Yeah. Longer, last night it was there now. And do you notice how the color has changed? It's almost like my shirt now. It's almost like cerulean blue now. Now, when I add water, it's going to darken. It depends upon the air, the time that I'm making it makes a big difference.
So I have a question. The longer you start, the darker it gets?
Lighter, actually. The lighter. It's breaking it down, so the light, I'm opening up the molecules, and the atoms are actually, I'm opening them up. And then when I add liquid or water, then I'm going to suspend them, and they drink the water. When it'll drink a little bit, but not a lot, right? But if I drink this, it's just going to still keep soaking up, and I'm going to do that in a minute.
Now, when you put it on the canvas, is it oxidized?
You try not to get it to oxidize, and that's why if you look at your paints, there's certain ones that are light that will oxidize, or the light or UV level. You have to watch that in all your paints. It'll say right on your tube what it'll do. But if you do it just right, I've got them pre-mixed. It's what's called color fast. It will adhere, it will stay that color. That's what dye is. And then what in dye, I could take this and dye something with it. I have to have a mordant, something that'll bond to the fabric, just like medium. You know, mediums again, I could take acrylic medium, which is universal, because acrylic is basically plastic. It's a resin. It's white glue. And then when you quantify it, it gets thicker and thicker and thicker, and then turns into plastic at one time. But it all comes from basically, most of all the acrylics we use today are soybean based. You start with soybean instead of these like so somebody, why don't you try this? Hear that sound? You don't want that sound. It's like music. You see, it's like sand. It's like spoken word. It's pretty, this is rhyming.
What's it saying?
Now once I have it, I put it down here. This is a glass Mueller, and this is a real fine glass, and what this is going to do, it's going to take it down to its next level. But to do that, glass upon glass is not a great idea. So, somewhere I had some droppers. Oh, there they are. They're hiding. So I'm going to feed it. It's thirsty. So then I'm let it drink. Now it's starting to look like paint, huh?
Yeah.
But that's only in looks. We want to do it so it doesn't peak up, which means there's more water than mineral. Yes.
How did they used to make paint without a really smooth surface like glass?
Well, glass is actually older than, it goes way back in time.
But could they get it to
Persia.
that?
We're actually the newbies with glass. Glass goes way back in China, and glass was traded on the Silk Road long before the Pilgrims were here. So it's.
So they would do this
But then
process.
at the same time, there's different levels of glass making. All of this came through Florence, Italy during the Renaissance. Florence, Italy, remember, was the center where Silk Road, Africa, Nordic countries, it all flowed into Florence with new ideas and all the globalization. So this one, 1,000 times. And then from there, now this is ready to do something with. If I were to add gum Arabic, think of that in art making. Gum Arabic, it came from Arabia, where it came. It comes from mainly Australia today, out of the acacia trees, but originally from Saudi Arabia. In the early days, they used myrrh and frankincense to paint. Most Islamic art is done with frankincense.
Is that because of the resin?
Yeah, it's all the resins. They're vegan fats. So different parts of the world, differently. We know oil painting because of the Italian Renaissance, and in the Renaissance brought together the northern countries, the Flemish painters, the Asian materials, all brought together in this new thinking, and tubing began. That's where tubes were started, was the time Italian Renaissance. So then you have, this is pure lapis. This is probably $150, $200 worth, right about.
That's that much?
Yeah.
Oh,
So if you come up with a little tube, those are about $50 or $60 a unit. So when you paint, like in the gallery, I'm painting with acrylic paints because you could see what it would cost to paint with that. Even in the Italian Renaissance, it was, if you've ever heard of Fra Angelico, the painter, he was the first to really paint in blues. It was expensive in those days. It took the Medici family to allow him to have the materials to do what he did. But, and this small work here, that's all turquoise and lapis. And that's about as big as I get because otherwise it starts costing way too much money, which is okay.
Are these for sale?
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah. Everything's for sale, but yeah. So then I've made some paints here. And these are composites. I've used a little bit of lapis, a little bit of zinc, which is white. So I've got these so you can try these. We'll paint it on your skin if you want.
That much, you should put on the skin.
They're just like watercolor diluted. Thinner. So give it a try. Come up and give it a try. That's the basic process.
Now they're
$120
bouncing
you should
everywhere.
invest it.
I don't have good manners.
It's money. We're concerned for you.
So that's color fast. It's going to stay that color. It's going to last longer than us. Probably your children's children.
Even if the paper doesn't last long?
Yep. And with global warming, it's probably going to go before that. So any questions? It's pretty simple, right? It's just time sensitive. It's you have to invest in the time of doing it, which to me is important because it connects you to something. You go to Michael's art store or the art store, and if you have the money, you can do it. This takes effort. You know, this is like growing your own food. You're connected to it. You are what you eat. You are what you make your materials out of. And so, as art students, it's not just what we express, your ideas or your what you, making images, you know, because not every culture had images. Remember, in Islamic culture, you don't make images. It's only in patterns and in designs. And so, think of your materials. Think of what you're doing. As an artist, when you working, you think about these things. You roll them around in your head, and whatever you're thinking about goes into your artwork, and that's what gives it the power. That's what gives it the strength. That's what gives it the curiosity. Otherwise, it's just a material good. But as artists, we can transform things. We can take stones and make paint. And we take paint and make images or make symbols. They affect people, and it goes on and on.
I have a question.
Maestro, can you talk about the blues and the Mayan? Maestro Stan? Can you talk about the blues that you've often talked in circle about in the Mayan templos?
Yeah. Okay, now, culture and blue. I just got back from Yucatan studying Mayan blue, and in the villages where they're reviving again. It's a certain blue. I don't have it with me today. And I'm leaving in February to study Egyptian blue. Outside of Cairo, they're starting to remake it again. And so every culture, this is Indo-European style here, coming from Asia into Europe. So everybody kind of has their cultural blue, their signature, their signet. They're oftentimes, it's called the is your spirit. It represents the spirit or the presence or being alive. You know, when we have something in our, when we want to show something that we have something in our lives, we paint with blue.
I have a question. How did you decide to start doing this? How did you start with the blues? How did you get interested
It's since a child. It's destiny, or it's why do you like certain foods, or why are you inclined towards certain things? I've done that. I don't just paint in blue because I also make all the primary colors. There are 4 basic colors. Is red oxide, rust, yellow oxide, less rust, white, which is porcelain or kaolin, which is porcelain, and black, which is carbon. Those are the 4 colors. If you look, art historians, look back in time, and those are the 4 colors you'll see. That was right after the volcanic era, 1.3 million years ago. All that red went all over the earth. And then the next step was fresco painting, and there are 12 basic colors that are used. If you look at the work of Diego Rivera, Orozco, Siqueiros, they work with those 12 colors. And those have come up to us. We have all these new colors. Quintones. Thank you. Can I drink it? I ruined it. Day glow colors, fluorescent colors. That was only 1945. One of my teachers invented those at IBM. And what he did was he was studying color out of a prism to see pure color. And then he went out in the parking lot and he saw the oil stains. And he goes, how come we're not using those colors? They're coal tar based. So it's the opposite of a natural rainbow. That's what day glow is, or glow in the dark paint. And then all these new colors, I don't have it with me. A new blue was just discovered in the last 10 years. We've never seen it before. Blue is the last color that humans were able to perceive. We didn't know blue because it wasn't available to us. And it was the last color that we have be able to perceive. There are other colors out there, we just don't know how to get them yet. And so that's what a colorist or a chemist or in Asia, they meditate and find the colors and then go after and get them chemically. In Western style world like we live in, everything starts in science and goes, we try to validate things through science, but in older cultures things start in the spirit and then they move towards science. And so I don't know why blue. I mean, but it's been a long time. Any other questions or come close? Is this boring, interesting? You ain't gonna see this everywhere. I hope maybe once in your life you've seen this. So get your eyes full and the imagination, which is what we work with, the medium of art, you know, is our imagination, is a pixelization, right? Being able to picture things. Oh, I imagined it. And if I can imagine it, then I can manifest it. So, in Western culture, we've got so much media and so much, everything is being fed to us, and our imagination is getting dwarfed. We're not as creative as we used to be. So, if we start visualizing, picturing, imagining, without being fantasy or schizophrenic or getting too high. You can see colors all those kind of ways, but it's the most natural thing for a human being to do is to visualize. And when you visualize, It develops your imagination to develop vision. And vision is very rare in our culture anymore. It's almost an antique. You know, and young people today, your generation that have grown up with your thumbs, you know, you're exchanging, your thumbs are for grounding. And if you're always working them, always spinning, and then you, I like to do it too. I'm not, you know, saying there's something wrong with it, but then your mind won't be stable. It takes visualization, the natural picturing, to make the mind stable. And a stable mind is positive, good health, and well-being. Again, when you abuse your thumbs, think of it in your nervous system. Study it. Anyway, any other questions? Or, you know, we're making history, art historians today. We're making history. We're going back in time and getting that information and bringing it all the way up into present. All of you can do this now. You don't have to do that. You can look around. Red dirt, yellow dirt, it's all over. Green earth, you know, natural elements are here. Go to the river and look at all the rocks. You'll see not just granite or basalt, you'll see all kinds of minerals there. It's all there. What's our timing and what's our...
I think we have one question and then I'll open
I'm
it to
sorry.
Darren.
Yeah,
Where does the expense come from?
it's just the cost. This sells by the carat. Afghanistan is the sole proprietor of this kind of lapis. In Afghanistan, it's not a free society anymore, and now lapis has changed because it's being marketed. Opium and lapis are in the hands of the Taliban, and now they regulate it. So most of all of this, again, I went to Afghanistan, I got this. But, so it's very rare. It always has been rare from the beginning of time. And so when something's rare, you know, raises the price. But we have red dirt all over. We can make paint. Sometimes we come back and do common paint.
Stan, can you use lapis that's already been polished, like a polished
Yeah,
stone?
anything is, you're transforming it as long as you crush it. You can do that.
And when you say you added the zinc, what form of zinc did you add? Like, was it a
This powdered
a
zinc.
powdered zinc?
You can, white, you can use kaolin, which is porcelain. You heat kaolin, it becomes porcelain. It also is kaopectate. It's, yeah, it bonds, it stops. If you have diarrhea and you take kaopectate, it stops. Diatomaceous earth is also white, and diatomaceous earth is a is animal, some kind of bug that transforms, and when it's transformed, its body turns white. So talcum, talc is a little bit, it's what can get white. So it's all here. It's the treasures of the earth, you know, and early. That's why art treasures, when you go, art historians, when you go to museums and everything, when you see these things, now you begin to understand them. It's not just the pictures or whether you like it or you don't like it or any of that, but just the fact that it's recording for all times, this history. The history of our imagination, which is the history of, recording of events is history, right? But the recording or the collecting of the memory and the imagination is mythology. You know, and mythology is anything can kind of happen in mythology. You know, you can imagine worlds and things coming and going because it's of our imagination. So our greatest resource is our imagination. And then the primary skills, earth skills. You know, this is really how we, to express ourselves. I'll stay here all day. But go do something with it now. You know?
I want to, oh yeah, I just want to say that I'm going to open up the gallery, so if you haven't seen the show, we're going to have that open. We just ask that you leave your backpacks, you can leave them in the gallery but not carry them on your back so nothing gets knocked over. But we'll have that open in a few minutes, and we invite you in. You'll really have a much more, if you don't understand blue, once you go in there, you will.
Yeah.
I'll just say that.
Blue immersion.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's
I'll go in there too and talk a little bit if you have time.
Stan also has prints for sale. They're $50 each, and he's real contemporary. Takes the Venmo and that's and
Cards.
so yeah. So I'll get the gallery open. The prints are for sale out here, and a lot of those prints have the original artworks are inside. I think all